Hi, I'm Margaret from Clay Creations, and today's class project will be how to make a plate. So I already started to center, centering wide and low, but I want to go over with you just a little bit about the difficulties with when you're trying to center low and wide. What ends up happening to people when they're learning is that it gets off center as you start to get wider. So what could happen is if it gets off like this, instead of just trying to muscle the edge of it, which can be difficult if it's depending on how big it is, push it back in, let it come back up a little bit until you feel like you have more control and it's centered again. And then you move your hand from the top inside, where normally a smaller piece of clay, this is how you'd be centering. And instead you just focus on your edge. Pushing down, my left hand with my fingertips holding it. I use my fingertips as part of my hand right here. Sometimes I bring it out like this too, just keeping my elbows braced. You can also do this where you push straight down in the middle, push straight down on the side, and then push in the edge. Now when you push in the outside edge, make sure that your elbow is braced against your body so it's not going to get off center. And then you can decide that as you're pulling your plate and pulling it out that you pull it past the base. But you can also bring this out a little bit more to make it easier. So let me do a little bit of both so you can see both. I'm going to push down and bring it towards me to widen it even more. And then recenter the edge. I think what I'll do too is bring it past the edge when I'm pulling it out so you can see that as well. Alright, first thing I do, I'm going to make my hole and I'm going to widen it. And then I'm going to check the depth with a needle tool. Okay, that's pretty thin. That's about where I want it to be. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wrap the sponge on the top and the bottom where I'm going to be pushing. My left hand's going to be pushing out to the right. And I'm going to control it as I move out. Sometimes I stop midway and I just look, did I come up at all? Did I go down here? Something to keep in mind that when you're making plates is that when you first start off, you're pulling a lot more weight. It's a lot more dense because there's more clay you're moving out. So you're pushing really, really hard, and then when you come close to the edge, there's less clay, but you're still pushing hard and you end up pushing down right here at the edge. So you want to look out for that you don't do that. So sometimes I stop midway and I do this compression technique. It's what you need to do anyway to lessen the pressure from the center. So I'm pushing down and in, compressing the bottom, just making sure it's even anyway. Okay, now I'm going to go back. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this past the base. I'm going to pull it out to about here. As I come past this base, because there's no clay here, I'm going to come up a little bit. So I'm going to pull across, slightly come up, and then down. And then down. Okay, I'm going to push down and back in. Just evening out the bottom, compressing the bottom of my plate. Push down and in. If you don't do this, chances are you're going to end up with an S-crack going through the center when it dries. So really relieving the pressure from the center of this piece is important. Bracing your elbows on your knees, hands connected. Okay, now I'm going to work on this edge. It's come out a little bit. I'm just going to straighten it up. I'm going to think about what kind of rim I want it to be. I have enough thickness there that I can bring it out. Maybe I'll bring it out and show you that. Okay, so first I'm going to come up. Thin it out. Compress the top, round it, so I don't have to do that later. Once I've brought it down, because that's hard to do once you've brought it, the edge horizontal. Okay, I'm going to do the undercut too as well now, to make it easier for trimming. Sometimes I like to do a rib, use a rib when I do this part. Actually, sometimes I like the metal rib, but I'll use this right now. I'm going to leave a little bit. So the food doesn't fall off. A little bit of a lip. Good enough rim to pick it up, carry it. Make sure it's smooth. And there we go. And there's my plate. A little nicer. Little spiral there in the center. Okay, thank you so much.